All right, guys, this video is gonna shock you guys because once I saw this video, I was just blown away by the information that I was seeing given by somebody who works in mobile gaming, and it's a president of some sort. We'll see all that. But this video has been out for, I think, 5 years, I believe. And every once in a while it'll come out, and then right now making the trend again. I feel like this time I want to go over this video with you guys, and as we're going over, we're gonna stop and show you exactly why this video is so important, because MFR is using a lot of stuff that's been shown in this video, but there's like a little twist. But anyways, let's just get right into it. Let's get right into it, guys. This is the guy.
I'm here to talk about monetization. It's Let's Go Whaling. It is about...
And this guy is a CEO. This guy's a CEO at this convention, and he's just basically showing everybody else, teaching everybody else how to basically, let's go whaling, how to make a mobile game and how to monetize it. That's the purpose of this video. And we're going to see the strategies that they use, and you're going to be like, oh my God, I see this in MF4 all the time. And every other mobile game, probably.
First off, Wall Street trader and an oil sheikh got into a fight. Who won? You guys did. This is to remind you that a lot of the spend comes from the high-paying guys, the whales. And the very best way to get these guys to spend is to get two rich, competitive guys to fight each other and tell them, I'll give you a slight upside if you pay me. Next off, to remind you that the best way to make sure of both your retention and your monetization is to make sure you have enough of an in-game economy in there. The 1,000 up there is actually clearly lowballing it. Top grossing games have in-game economies worth tens of thousands. That's how you can keep people in there. They have lots of things to do, stuff to upgrade, to progress along, and that's how you can make them spend a lot as well.
Make it possible to spend 1,000 on whatever, blah, blah, blah. And obviously he's lowballing it. He even clearly says he's lowballing it because the real number is make it possible to spend any amount of money. There's no end to it. And then 1,000 of top grossing games do this. 100% of top grossing games do this. Pretty sure 100% of mobile games do this. That's what it should be saying.
Since you can, for instance, give a...
Now look at the picture that he uses. Look at the picture that he uses. It's a devil grabbing on the money. This is a CEO showing and teaching people how to the tricks.
Huge discount on something, this stuff is worth 150 euros, but now I'll give it to you for 5. If your whole in-game economy is worth less than 150, you cannot do that, of course. So now a few of these like frameworks on how to think of stuff. I've seen suggestions to model what you sell according to Bartle types. I assume you're all familiar with Bartle types. The achievers want to progress in the game, the socializers want to speak to other people, the killers just want to compete and kill each other, and the explorers are the guys who are after stories and experiences. So this is from Will Luton's suggestion to you sell convenience to the achievers, which really means faster progress, customization to socializers, hats and stuff, competitive advantage.
All right, so this part right here, customization, this is basically talking about, when every different gear set that you're able to have, as like Iron Man has all those different costumes and all that. That's what customization for the socializers. Competitive advantage is for, the mega whales that are, it needs to have something in there for the whales to be able to get that will give them a competitive advantage so they can get so they can kill people faster, basically one-shotting people. It needs to have something like that in there in the mobile game. And then it needs to have content for people to be able to explore. And then obviously the first one is convenience for, you know, achievers to like progress and stuff like these are all the things that he's basically saying that this a mobile game needs to have.
That is pay to win for the killers and content for explorers. Now, the reason I highlighted convenience up there or progress is that most of your sales will be here. Customization, hats and stuff, they're nice, but you'll have a single-digit percentage of your income coming from that if you do both that and progress.
Now, that is why you don't really see MFR really focusing on cosmetics like that. This is why they're not releasing cosmetics, and we've been saying, hey, why don't you guys release cosmetics or emotes, is because cosmetics is just a small percentage, and they're going for the ones that are giving you big percentages. And he clearly says that just the customization is just a small portion.
Good, but you can go overboard with it and have an unbalanced game, which is, if it's too clearly pay to win, people will stop playing.
So this right here, this is a very important thing that he just said. Let me rewind it for you guys. Pay attention to this part.
Competitive advantage is good, but you can go overboard with it and have an unbalanced game, which is, if it's too clearly pay to win, people will stop playing. And content,
and that right there is where MFR really messed up on. It was clearly too pay to win. It became real quickly unbalanced because they were just letting the whales whale out early on. So it became unbalanced way too fast. So these new players that were like low spenders, free to play, which we'll learn later on in this video why free-to-play players are so important. It's not about people that spend or free-to-play doesn't matter. No, free-to-play does matter, or even like very low spenders. But the free-to-play is very important, and you'll see why later on.
It takes a lot of resources and time to do that. Selling content is very expensive. Hardly any team can keep up producing content at the pace needed. This one I like a bit better. Hook Habit Hobby. This is a model from Dmitry Dravanov of Flare Games. It's a model for how people progress in a game. The hook is what gets you into the game to try out a free-to-play game. Then you build it into a habit that you play multiple sessions every day. And then at the end, it's the hobby phase where people see it as one of their main hobbies, and they put lots of time and resources into.
Okay, so this right here is what I was talking about. So he's telling you guys that the hook is the icebreakers, habit, and a hobby. So this is basically the stages that they want to make you go through to become a spender. So the hook in the beginning, they need somebody. So for a free to play, their hook is something that's going to come in and bring you in and make you come in and play. And then the next stage is for them to make you come multiple times, which is why they give out good rewards for daily check-ins. That's why it's very important to them, because subconsciously you're making it become a habit. And once you become a habit, it starts turning into a hobby. And once it becomes a hobby, that's when a free-to-play becomes a spender. Let's continue.
Now, if we look at this from a monetization perspective, the hook is where you put up an icebreaker. You want to give a really good deal, something that's a no-brainer. You would be crazy to turn it down as a player. The reason to give a really good deal up front is by making people spend up front, they are also emotionally committing to your game, their retention will go up. And the first spend is, it breaks the ice, then they think of themselves as spenders in the game. It's okay for me to spend in the game. Lots of people otherwise have this wall up, I will never pay for a mobile game. So you need to break the wall first. The habit is like the main meat of the game. This is where you sell the faster progress, as we just discussed. And the hobby is for the guys who have already maxed out. They're the guys who have all of their Clash of Clans building at the max level. They are already there. So you can no longer sell progress to them, you have to sell consumables. This is where you're selling the faster healing times or faster build times of armies. This is also where you get basically unlimited upper spend. There's no limit to how much you can spend in, for instance, Clash of Clans.
So, and that is why we're getting a lot of companions now. We're getting a lot of companions now because whales, they're trying to give the whales something so they can continue spending. So the way he was explaining this, he was saying that the hook is them giving you something that you really want to get. So for example, something that is cheap, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to have you spend at least anything. So it can be that 99-cent deal. As long as you're spending, that is considered breaking the ice. And now you just went from free to play to a spender. So then you're going to be like, oh, it's only $1. And then you start buying another bundle and then another 99 cents or another 3 something. And then slowly you're getting into a habit. And then now this is a habit. And then you're seeing that progress because you're buying these small bundles. And then you're going to be tempted to go ahead and start spending more on those bigger bundles. And then when it becomes a habit, the chances of you doing that become a little bit higher. Let's continue.
So let's go down into some of these more tricks. Gachas. Who hasn't heard of gachas? Excellent. Most of you have. So gachas, they're named after gachapon, these Japanese machines, which are sort of slot machines that give you collectible stuff. On random, you get collectible stuff. But it's really the same mechanic that we have had in Western markets for collectible playing cards like Magic the Gathering for ages. You cannot, no matter how much you spend, you cannot directly get the card you want. You have to, over and over again, pay to get a bunch of random cards and hope that the thing you wanted is in there. Or then you like trade them somehow if there's what wasn't what you hoped for. These are great for again both monetization and retention because people like the lottery part of it. If you
see the lottery part of it, and this is the thing where that's why they have everything with so much RNG. When you're doing costumes, you can't buy a costume that you want. You have to pool for it, and you have to, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to do that and see how many you get. A 10 pull. It starts becoming a habit when you're doing 10 pulls, and then you're like, oh, I'm itching for another 10 pull. And that's the main purpose here. And what he's showing with these cards is that it's been going on before it went to when mobile really started doing this. Before mobile started doing this, it was like in cards and stuff like this, like he was just explaining right now, except you had to buy these little packets of cards, you open them and hope to see what was in it, but you never knew exactly what was in it, or else somebody would be like just going through and be like, oh, I want this pack, because they already know what's in there. It wouldn't work like that. They wouldn't sell like that. They would sell way less, and that is why they took that strategy and started doing it in mobile, and it's been working clearly for them.
You won't look up Skinner box to know why. It's really a lot more exciting, and you get more content because people cannot immediately progress to the stuff they want. They have to keep trying a few times. So it really takes like 5 times as long to get the collection that they need compared to just progressing and collecting soft currency and buying it straight off.
So they don't want you to be able to buy it straight up. They want you to try to attempt to get lucky and roll the dice and land on the one that you want to get, but the chances of it landing on something you don't want to get is going to be way high, and you're going to have to roll the dice a couple more times. Just like, in MFR, they do the pulls, and then the chance of the RNG is so bad because the goal here is they want you to pull again and pull again. And even though as soon as the more you pull, the more you slowly, subconsciously, you start getting addicted to it.
Okay, then think about how you want to get to your millions. Do you go the king route of having a huge volume of players and a fairly modest lifetime value for each spender, or do you go the machine zone route of having a very hardcore game that like 95% of the population is going to look like, what is that? But the 5% that actually do play it, they will spend a lot. Just know where you stand on this.
And does that sound familiar to you guys right now, right? That's why in reality, after watching this one again, MFR is not going to die. This is a CEO that's been making a living doing stuff like this in mobile games, And he just flat out said 95% can be like, oh, I'm not really spending. As long as you have 5% that are mega whales and they're spending, that's enough, because it's worth more than a game that's popular that has a huge crowd of people, but each people is like they're on barely spending any money. That 5% over here in Mobile Strike are spending way more than all those group of people. If you guys see what I'm saying. So they did a whole bunch of research and this is what they found. That's why they're doing it like this.
Hot State. There's an excellent book about behavioral psychology called Thinking Fast and Slow. This is the fast thinking. I'm telling you that the fast thinking mode is what you want. The slow thinking is your analytical brain. What's 12 times 47? I'm sure all of you can answer that, but you have to start your actual thinking brain to do that. Now, if I say, complete the sentence, bread and everyone's thought butter. So that's the fast thinking. Our brain works in these two modes, and starting the analytical part of your brain is too much to ask for a spend. How it applies to games is make stuff immediately useful, immediate gratification. If you have a level-based game and you sell some boosters up front, for instance, a coin doubler or some other stuff that will help you, people will have to analyze and think it through. These things are good for me. These will help me progress before they do it. And they won't do that. If, on the other hand, you do like, for instance, in this temple run, once your game is over, save me, I have a few seconds to spend hard currency and I get to continue. Or similar in Candy Crush Saga, at the very moment that I've lost, I can see I just played a bit more, I can pass it. Make it immediately useful.
All right, so this section right here, now he talks about how they want something to pop up and have you kind of quickly think and not think too much about it, because if you start thinking too much about it, chances are you're probably not going to do it. But if they do it in a way where you can just where it just kind of smoothly throw it in there, so you can just be like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. So. And that is going to increase the chances of people, you spending or using whatever they're trying to get you to do. They're trying to get you to click on this button to either spend money or use up your resources. Okay. So now, like for example, now I only play MFR really enough to know, that a lot of the stuff I compare it to MFR because that's the game I mostly play. Right. So what does MFR do that kind of would fit in this category? Right. For example, when you die, you have to use what pops up when you die, gold, right? That's one way of doing it. When you level up your new character and you hit a certain level, what happens? A little pop-up deal. If you don't get this deal in 24 hours, you will lose it. Or those are the type of things, consumables, or the new update just added another pop-up thing that just pops up and then it shows you to open it. And I've already done it like 3 times where I just automatically click it and I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to open it. I wanted to save it because I don't want to open it, because if I open a core box with like 5 in them, now that takes 5 slots in my storage when I could have just kept the cores in the box and just used 1 storage slot and see. But now that thing makes you quickly have to think, and most of the times they want you to kind of click on it so you can automatically open it and make it like harder. Like, oh, now your storage is full. You got to do something. You got to get rid of some of your cores, I guess. Now, another thing I want to kind of quickly point out here is that there was another thing that Marvel Future Revolution used to do, and that was in DZ. When you died, you could use crystals to revive yourself. Now, they probably were you able to do that somewhere else, probably, but as far as I remember, I think it was just only on DZ. But I remember when you could use crystals to revive, and that was this right here. That was what this was talking about. But they removed that, thankfully, and used gold. It's still the same thing. You're using gold, and eventually you're gonna run down to that. You're gonna need to get more resources, making you go back and start grinding again, basically playing more. You're falling back into that system where either way the way you look at it, you're still following that path that they kind of want you to go and take. Let's continue.
people are much more attached to the stuff they have than an equal amount of things that they can gain. Which means that if I give you an offer, I'll flip a coin. If it's tails, I'll take 100 euros from you. If it's heads, I'll give you 120 euros. Who would take the bet? No one. No. We need more gain to offset the loss is felt more strongly. We need like 200 against 100 loss, 200 gain against 100 loss, then we'll take the deal. In games, you can apply this by giving people stuff that feels is in their pocket, and then threaten to take it away unless they pay up. This is, lots of level-based games do this. There are collectibles in things like Puzzle and Dragons. You collect along the way. If you didn't finish the level, they'll take it from you. Now, pay to continue a bit.
Basically, he's saying they're going to give you something, and then if you don't fully use it or something, they will take it back. Now, MFR does this. A lot of mobile games do this. And what they do is they give you something. And then if you don't, like, let's just say the daily logins, if you don't log in every day, you won't get those rewards, even though you paid for those, even though if you paid for that week. So it says you have to log in every day. If you miss a day, you miss out, even though you paid. Now, a lot of mobile games, now not all mobile games do this, but every time you see something where you're like, hey, I paid for this, why should you, and you're telling me if I don't sign in or something, you're going to take it back? But I already paid for it. Why? How is that even possible? That is why. That is why, because it gives you that feeling of like, damn, this is like mine. I have something in your pocket, but that you can lose. They have that. They want to give you that feeling of you can lose something you have if you don't act up. So,
offers and scarcity plays into the loss aversion. If there are rare cards up here, and you see the goblin going with his clocks, tick tock. I'll take it away from you. I'll take it away from you. They are scarce. They go away. This is a brilliant way to get more people to spend more.
Now that right there, what you guys saw was literally in MFR when you get that special offer pop up and it says only 24 hours or a certain amount of time before this offer ends. That is what he's talking about, because it makes people start thinking like, whoa, okay, so if I don't get this in 24 hours, I won't be able to get it again. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to think that way. Let's continue.
Description. Does anyone recognize the guy? He's the builder from Clash of Clans. The point of this is the builder has a very specific way of working. If you spend your hard currency on this guy, you will only get the benefit from him if you then keep coming back to the game very often. So it drives both retention and monetization. Build stuff that makes people come back to your game a lot in order to get the value out of that.
So this right here, it's the season pass. The season pass that they announced is something where when you buy it, you now have the opportunity to get more rewards from that season pass. But in order to get those rewards, you have to log in every day. You have to keep on progressing towards it. And this actually is in a lot of different games, not just mobile. This is used a lot in other stuff. But and this part right here is not really that bad. But it falls under earlier how we were saying they want you to keep coming back to the game, turning into a habit. So even though it's in a different road, it's talking about something else, it's still going down that path that they want you to go.
The IKEA effect. This is to say stuff that we put work into, we value more highly. IKEA really sells you cardboard stuff. It's shit. But you value it still somehow slightly higher because you actually built it yourselves. The model over here is from a psychology book called Hooked, How to Build.
So that part is basically, they sell you shit, but because you built that piece of shit together, and took some time building that shit, it has value now. And that makes sense. That makes everything in here is making a lot of sense after you're watching this. But for example, when you think about spending money on a mobile game, and then when somebody else that doesn't play mobile game thinks about it, like, well, why would you spend all this money on a mobile game if the game just closes down? They don't do it. You just lost all that money. Is it really worth it? Well, for somebody that is paying money, to them, they see the build. They like, hey, I created this. I remember when my Iron Man was only like 500K power. Now he's hitting 1.5K, and it's like we've been through a lot. Now that piece of shit build that I have is worth a lot to me, and now it's it's worth to me. And then somebody that doesn't play mobile won't see that part. They won't see that part because they're not going through all the steps that they already been talking about. Like they don't log in every day. They didn't go in and make that first 99-cent purchase and then log in every day and then turning into a habit and then turning into a hobby. For them, they didn't go through none of that. I already did. So for me, I was like, yeah, look at my piece of Iron Man. Yeah, I'm having a good time. But that's what is going on.
Build hooking products. This is how we build habits. There's a trigger to remind us to do something, then we go do an action, we get the variable reward, just like the gachas, we get the lottery ticket, and then to really hook it down, we need to ask people to do something for us, do a little bit of work, because then they become emotionally attached to that. And then we set up the next trigger, either internal or external. External trigger means really a notification in our case. Internal that people have in their minds that, I started building that tower, or I planted pumpkins. That means I need to come back in 8 hours. Mm-hmm. So that's the trigger. And then we go round and round.
Now, there's multiple things that trigger this effect. Now, like the Pegasus base is one of them. Now, what happens? You have to pull your character in there, and then what happens? You have to wait. That means you have to come back to the game and accept rewards, which obviously, yeah, like no shit, But that right there is part of them trying to get you through that whole phase. That's part of them. Hey, keep going down this path that we're trying to get you in. Another one. Now after seeing this again, the core boosters is starting to make a little bit more sense. Like, this is the strategy that they probably put into this. Like, they looked at the core booster and it's like, we don't want to give them just 50%. We want to make them go through this whole, like, every little thing they add goes through this whole process. It's like, before we give them the core booster, we have to make it to where if check marks all of these little boxes. And now when you know this, it's starting to make sense why every little thing that they do is like this.
Anchoring is fun. Anchoring means that when we don't know the price of stuff, the first price we hear suggested for it becomes our anchor. And then we compare everything to that. For instance, an iconic example, black pearls. Black pearls, when they first came on the market, no one wanted them because they're dull and black and don't look very nice. The guy who had them told his summer trainee or whatnot to just dump the price of them and get rid of them. The summer trainee understood it wrong and actually hiked the price by 50% or 100%. And then suddenly they became these objects of desire. If I ask all of you to write down the last 2 digits of your social security number, and then I have an auction, like imagine this is a fancy bottle of wine, and you get to bid on auction here. The people like me, my last 2 digits in my social security number are 99. I'd bid a higher price on this than the guys who have like 10 or 05. Just because I wrote down a high number on a paper will anchor my thinking on what goes next. So how to use this in a game? Some games, immediately when you're in the tutorial, they suggest to you, you should buy this good IAP for 50 euros or something like that. I go like, oh, that's expensive, I'll never do that. Of course, no. And I expect them to say no. Then again, I come back like, a few sessions later and suggest they buy it for 15. And I'll say, that's a good value because my anchor was at 50.
All right, so this right here, this one was crazy. Now this is like, okay, now if you guys are still like confused about this part right here, for example, $89.99, but in reality they overpriced it, but in reality the goal is for them to get $50 out of you, right? Now you're gonna say no, but you're gonna start buying these little small deals here and there. You're gonna still spend those $50. They just use that $89.99 as an anchor. That right there. Freaking mind blown, man.
Social proof. So this is, we are herd animals. We tend to do what all of the others do. You all sit quiet listening to me because...
All right, guys. Now this part right here is good, man. This one's another one. Man, just watch it.
You all sit quiet listening to me because that's what all of the other guys do here. So... especially when people are similar to us. This means that you should have the socially accepted way of behaving in your game should be paying. You want to tell people, for instance, when a clan member of theirs spend IAP money, you want the whole clan to know, because then that becomes the socially acceptable way of behaving.
Is this starting to look a little familiar? Is this starting to look a little familiar? Is there something right now that just went inside your head like, wait a minute, I know exactly something that happens in the game so many times, and there's no way to get rid of this feature, and this is why. This is why you cannot get rid of that damn little icon that pops up when somebody's like transmuting their gear and their special items. Oh, this guy that you don't really know, you don't give a damn about, is just popping up. Oh, he got the Hydra chest. Like, I don't give a fuck. This is why that feature is in the game.
You absolutely do not want to tell them that the majority of people in your game never spend money. That's poison. Never tell them that.
All right, so this part right here, the reason why he says it like that, you see some, there's some anger in him because this is very, very crucial in a mobile game. Now what he's exactly talking about, like what is it in MFR, for example? Now, a lot of mobile games, but MFR specifically, because that's the one that I play the most, what is it that it has this, right? And that is what he's talking about. He wants your alliance to see how much you're spending. Alliance contribution, that's what it is. So they want to see that everybody's there. They want to be like, oh, I see everybody spending all this money, I haven't spent any money, I'm feeling like I'm letting my alliance down because I'm not spending. Here's a couple bucks so I can feel like, I can, hopefully I don't get kicked out or something. That right there is the reason why they're doing it. And it's not that. MF4 allows you to check what other people are, their alliance contributions from other people, so you can see how much they're spending and over there, so you can see it. But the main objective here, the reason why they're doing this, is they want you to see that, like, hey, little Billy over here is spending using a lot, everybody, but I'm the only one that's like not spending. I'm free to play, and it's kind of putting a little bit more pressure. And then some people would just feel like, oh, let me start spending some more money. Let me help out my alliance. So you can look at it as a bad way. Like most people look at this as a bad way, or you can look at it as a way like they look at this and they're like, I want to increase my productivity with the alliance. Let them know that I'm serious about being in this alliance, and that's why I'm gonna start dropping some more money so they can see my contribution. They'll see that, oh, hey, look, Andy's spending some money now. Let's not kick his ass out. Let's go back into the video.
Availability means that the stuff we hear a lot about is the stuff we judge as likely to happen. This, for instance, can tie into gachas. If there are rare gachas, not every player will see them every session. That's like the definition of rare, which means that they will think that it's not likely to happen that they get one of those, which means that you should tell them about it, which means every time a clan member gets one of the rare things, you should broadcast it to all of the others, like your friend got this rare or legendary thing. Then they will judge it more likely. The right amount of choice.
Now, the last part right there that you just saw was the badges. That's the badges. That's what the rare item that somebody just pulled, and now everybody knows that you got that item, and it keeps popping up for everybody. It keeps popping up because they want to implement that in your head that is a rare item, that somebody that's showing you that's a good thing to go for. I always see it pop up. I never see no non-regional gear pop up, so the non-regional ones not be good. I must go for the ones that are good. And yeah, it works, man. It got me. Shit, I fell for that shit.
This is a famous jam experiment. They put up a stall in a supermarket with 20 different jams. You know, have a taste here, then you have a discount, go buy some. And then they had a control group who had only 5 jams to taste. Now, for the one with 20, a lot of people stopped by and tasted the jams, but for the one with 6, a lot more people bought, because they know that that's the best one. That's the one I want. If there are 20, there's too much choice. We just get anxious. We choose nothing. There's a bunch of data.
And that is part of like the $89.99 bundle. There's all these things that come up, or anything that has like a lot of choice. And that's why they have these other bundles that are just like single, not that much stuff, but you know exactly what you're going to be getting. Well, not technically that way, but they do that way. It's just, it makes it easier for you to be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to get that, but I'm going to get this one smaller. And it works, man. It works. Fuck, man, it works.
On this, that whales take longer time to convert. This is just another reminder for you to have content for a bloody long time.
Now, that part right there, let me rewind that real quick. So whales take longer. So the average number of days to first purchase. So how long does it take for them to break you, for you to make that first 99-cent purse? They don't care how if it's 1 penny. As long as you go into your pocket, take out some form of money and give it to them, they just broke you. You already failed the first test, and now you're on your way to, doing it again and again and again. That's what it is. They just want to give you a little taste, like here's some crack, and then you take a little bit of crack. Why do you think drug dealers give you a free sample? They just want you to break the ice. Damn, that shit makes a lot of sense. But look, they want you to do it, and that because why? Because they want to turn free-to-play players. That's why free-to-play is so important. That's why it's so important they try to get new players come in and keep them playing, so eventually they'll think about, all right, let me spend $1 or something. That way they break the ice. It starts becoming a habit, and once it becomes a habit, they're on their way to becoming a hobby. And once it's a hobby, it's when that's when you know you're in too deep. You're in too deep. That's where I'm at right now. I'm in too deep.
To have content for a bloody long time. The core loop go through the store. Have an example, hill climb racing, because it's so fantastically minimal and nice. You do your action, your in-game, your core game there, and you go straight into the meta game where you do the upgrades, and then back there. So the loop always goes through the meta stage where your store, where you're spending money.
So this right here is like, you're playing the game, and then this little area on the right side where they want you to go is basically, they want you to do pulls. They want you to go anywhere where you're able to use currency, use gold, use your resources. They want you to do that stuff and then go back out and play again, and then come back and then repeat that cycle. But if you're just going out there and just playing the game and not upgrading or anything and just hoarding everything, they don't want that. They don't want that. So there's all these little things that's going to be taking your resources. That's why specialization has all these, that requires all these specialization resources, these stuff that needs gold. You have crystals, you have a lot of stuff. And then now you have the core booster that's really going to vamp it up. Now the core booster is starting to make a lot of sense, huh? It's starting to make a lot of sense why they did it the way they did it, because they're just, every little thing that they're adding in there it has to go through this process. Now, you'd think that the money would be rolling in, but that's the part. There's somewhere is not going the way MFR wants it to go, because the money's not there yet. They're winning awards for this game. The game looks beautiful. There's so much potential, but there's something in there that they are not getting right, and it's breaking up this thing because people are not still spending. But remember earlier, they only need 5%. 5%. 95% could just be there running around and just being bait for the whales, because the whales need the little barnacles running around. So they need that. So as long as they have 5%, the game ain't going anywhere. And trust me, they got around the 5%.
Labeling technique, I haven't seen this actually done in a game, but it's interesting. It should work. If we tell people they are a certain way, if we compliment them on being nice, good citizens, they are more likely to behave as nice, good citizens. So you should actually tell your players that they are generous individuals who have a taste for good art and want to support their game developers by paying you and buying IAPs. Related to that, also to telling people the reason to do something makes them much more likely to actually follow through and do that. Spend because reasons. The reasons don't even have to be that good in order for this to work.
You see that? It doesn't even have to be that good in order for it to work. They can basically, you can half it as long as you throw in some reason. There's somebody's gonna buy it. That's all it is. That's what this is. So that's why he's showing you spend because and then reasons. That's it. Just throw some reasons in there, and then somebody's gonna start paying. You don't really do it. He clearly says that. That's why, you see these rewards and you're like, why wouldn't they give out good rewards and stuff like that? Because they don't need to. They don't need to, because people are still gonna buy.
And last, here are remember, there are 4 ways of progressing in games in general. You can have a skill-based game, you can have a luck-based game, you can have a game where you just progress by grinding, or you can pay to progress. Make sure that your games aren't too skill-based. I made that mistake myself. A too skill-based game, you don't get people to pay you because there's no reason to.
You see that? So he's saying don't make it too focused on skill, right? Because they want to basically make it to where you are grinding and paying. You're grinding and paying. You're going to be grinding, spending all this time. Like, damn. Oh, then you're going to start seeing, like, if I spend a little bit of money, it'll be less grinding. And then everybody's going to be like, oh, I want to grind as much as I can. Eventually you're going to be like, well, let me just drop in a little bit of this here, there, and that. And bam, they already got you. You know what I'm saying? But they never want to make sure that if you're just good, you don't need to pay. And clearly all mobile games do that. And then some actual PC or, games do that as well, but majority, a lot of the, like, 90% of mobile games do this. Whatever this guy is showing right now, it looks like this is the blueprint for every mobile game, man. Every mobile game. And MFR looked like they looked at this and were like, we need to freaking do this, but rank it up like 3 notches.
So make sure grinding and paying are legitimate versions of progressing in the game.
See, that the problem here though with MFR though is not the grinding, is the part that needs to get fixed. They need to make it to where we grind, and that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get MFR like, look, I don't have a problem with whales paying. Let people pay. I pay in my own way. I'll put $5 here and there. Trust me. I admit, I went through that damn thing after seeing this. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. They got my ass. And then, but because I'm already at the stage where it's a hobby, I'm like, okay, at least make it grindable, man. Jesus. Can I get that thing to be grindable? Let me grind. Because right now, it looks like it's just all pay. The luck, oh, freaking, yeah, right. Yeah, luck, freaking, the RNG, whew, freaking horrible. But let us grind. It says right there, as long as you can grind and pay. Those are 2 options that you have. Let us grind. It's gonna take a long time, and then that's what's gonna, while we're doing it, we're looking at the long ass road, and we're like, damn, let me put a couple dollars to make this a little bit more easier. And there, bam, they got them. But since there's no grinding in Marvel Future Revolution, if you say there's grinding in there, ooh, Lord, man. I don't know what the hell you playing, but there's no grinding in Marvel Future Revolution. There isn't. And that's what we want. We want to be able to grind. Let us grind. We want to grind. There's two options. He's saying there's two options: grind and pay. But clearly, you want to make sure that grinding takes a while, way longer, and paying is the more of like the sunshine is rising. You get an Uber Lyft right there. You don't have to wait at all. You can just get right to the front of the line. And that's what it is. But you got to make sure there's grinding able in the game. That right there, guys, was literally a CEO explaining how to monetize a game, all the tips to catch and turn free-to-play players into whales. And this is what all these mobile games, and I bet you, if this was your first time watching this, you are just like thinking like, holy shit, this is why this happens. This is why this happens. You're going to see the game in a different light. Now, since I've watched this like 2 times before a while ago, now watching it now and really having all this time spent on a mobile game the way that I just did, because I used to not play in mobile games the way I do now. So now I'm learning and knowing the ways that a mobile game works it's crazy, because now I see this and I'm like, oh my God, now I see why they implemented that core booster the way they did. And that's the thing though, everything they add in here is a way for them to kind of make you go through that process. So to break it down, every little thing needs to have something that will make you break the ice and it gets you to come back. And as you're coming back and doing that, it starts to into a habit, and then it starts turning into a hobby. And then now when you're in a hobby, you're fully invested. And that's where no matter what other people tell you, you're like, yeah, well, I love this game. This is what I'm going to do. That's why, you know what I'm saying? I keep finding myself say this, man. I keep finding myself say that. But look, I have no problem spending money. The thing I want Netmarble to fix here is the grinding. So I see all this stuff, right? There's 2 things that I saw in here that I'm like, Netmarble needs. This is where Netmarble failed at when making Marvel Future Revolution. Is the one where he talks about right in the beginning. He says, do not let the whales, be able to fully go all out right in the beginning, because then it makes the game unbalanced. And once the game is fully unbalanced, that's when players start to leave. And that is exactly what happened with MFR. They let the whales, they gave the whales the nano opportunity to nano their costumes right from the beginning. So they did that, and now what happened is it made it unbalanced. And that's one of the biggest complaints in the community right now, is that they're like, these whales, they're just one-shotting us. We have to spend all this money to catch up, and then we need to find another way to fix it, because we don't want to take anything away from the whales, because they spent hard-earned money. And now knowing about that 5%, all they need is 5%, and 95% could just be like just there hanging out and being like little barnacles for those 5%, and just to feed those 5% to continue to spend. That's all they need. And that's why the game is not dying, because they definitely got 5%. They might even got like 6, 7, 8, under 10. And that's all they need. In our eyes, we thought like, damn, the game is struggling. When in reality, they've been having that 5% the whole time, which explains they might not in the paper, they're not hitting all this, they're not hitting all the goals, but they're still making enough to keep the doors open because of those 5 people. So because of those 5 people, they have the opportunity to keep on, those 5%. Now, because of those 5%, they have the opportunity to keep on working on the game, and just the goal to get that 5% higher. And that is, let's turn these free to play and go make them go through this whole process. And let's get that 5% to a 6% to a 7%. And then it's a long goal. And that's why this video is it's a mind opener, and it blew me away, and hopefully it blew you guys away. And this will make you see everything in a different picture. Now, I'm not saying this is right. This is, this is like territorial, and this is not fair. And a lot of mobile games do this. This is just something like, okay, the way I'm looking at it is like, all right, so it's free to play, so you guys have to make money. All right, I understand that. Now, there's a couple things in here that you guys are messing up on. Fix those things. That way people can have the ability to grind. And if people want to pay to progress, they have that option. And that's what they need to work on. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And catch you guys next time.